everybody. Welcome into the 90 Plus 2 podcast. I'm Sammy St.Jean. That's Jeremy Strano. And this is the crossroads between pundits and fans. We are aspiring soccer journalists who have a love for the game. And this is our starting point. We are on episode 9 on the doorstep of double digits, Jeremy. New location in the dungeon. How we doing?
Yeah, I'm in the depths of hell. No, I'm kidding. I'm back home in New Jersey. I'm in my basement. We're kind of like getting rid of like winter clothes and summer clothes. So behind me, there's a lot of clothes behind me. So it's looking like a dungeon right now. But went to the dentist today. Mouth's kind of banged up, but hey, the grind never stops, and gotta talk some footy with my main man Sammy.
Yeah, no, we power through dentist appointments. Necessary evil, to say the very least. But let's jump into the Champions League. I'm gonna be honest, these games were so disappointing. I was just devastating games. Let's start with the snooze fest that was Inter and AC, a 1-0 final. It really was just not a super enjoyable game. There was so much hype and potential around this game. If AC Milan had early chances, they had a couple decent early looks, just nothing came of it. I think Inter played a little too passively in those first 20 minutes. I think this game could have been wrapped up in 20 minutes if they came out like they did in game one, but I understand the whole, sit back, you want to play defensive, you have a 2-goal lead, let's not do anything stupid. Lautaro scored, obviously Leao wasn't at 100%, and Onana's a dog. But other than that, I really don't think there's much to take away from my side of things here. Inter Milan obviously going on, AC Milan in a shaky spot for even Champions League next season now in the Serie A. So I don't have too much to say on this game. I was just a little disappointed overall with what we saw from AC Milan. You would have thought in the second half they were playing 2 up. Like it just overall was disappointing. Any thoughts, Jer?
Well, for this one particular, I was actually on location for this game. I was actually in New York City over at Legend Sports Bar, the Football Factory, which this isn't an ad. It is a great place to watch a game. I showed up maybe the second minute, like it just started. I got off the train, and it's not too far away from Penn Station or Madison Square Garden where NJ Transit gets let off. And I walk in, and it was like, oh my God, like there were so many. I believe it's the official bar of the AC Milan. So to those, I know you know this, but I'm going to explain this to the viewers. So for international clubs, they have these chapters in the United States, and I'm sure there's a Tottenham chapter in New York. There's a Manchester United one over at the Red Lion. So basically, these chapters are in major cities or regions, and they have their headquarters at a bar. And the AC Milan New York City headquarters is at Legends. And there were also Inter Milan fans. It was pretty much split down the middle. It was red and blue, and it was pretty cool. But found a spot at the bar, sat next to an AC Milan fan who was friends with an Inter fan, which was pretty interesting. So I was like looking at them and laughing with them back and forth as the game went on. But in terms of the game itself, apart from my overall experience, which was like a 9 out of 10 watching it, the game itself was like a 2. It was a real like it was lackluster to say the least. And you can tell they were revolving or trusting Leao a lot. I think there was maybe one chance in the first half where like he tried to go one-on-one against Onana and it just wasn't working. And the main man that I'm really like upset with in terms of his performance as a distributor, I know he's a central defensive midfielder, but Sandro Tonali just looked flat. Now I'm not. I'm going to pick on the entire AC Milan team. The entire AC team looked just lethargic to say the least. But Tonali was someone I thought was going to be a real contributor in that one, but there was just nothing going. And then the nail in the coffin, Lautaro gets the goal, and Inter Milan are into their first UEFA Champions League final since 2010 against an opponent who we will mention in a little bit, but I think they have their backs against the wall here. Even though they shut down their crosstown rival, or the rival they share their own stadium with, they're a heavy, heavy underdog, no matter who was going to win that second semifinal.
I was gonna say, I think AC Milan looked like Spurs in the Champions League against AC
Ooh.
Milan. Like, I just think they looked uninspired.
Yeah, no,
I think
that's
that's the best
it's
way to put it.
right. I
Um,
mean, I'm not no dig to your club, but they just looked flat. Like
I
this
said
is
it.
like,
I said it. I
yeah.
said it.
Mhm.
It's fine, but let's move on. I don't think we have any more really to say here. Let's move on.
Not much.
Man City 4, Real Madrid 0. Both of us horridly wrong. We both went 2-1 Real Madrid. So Jeremy and I clearly do not know ball. Bernardo
I don't even,
Silva with the brace, Akanji and Alvarez credited with the other goals, although one of them kind of a Militao own goal. Militao, he had a stinker and really shouldn't have started over Rudiger, who kind of, I don't want to say locked up Holland because Holland still had his chances, but Rudiger did fairly well against Holland in leg one. So I really was very surprised that Militao started over Rudiger. I think that was a pretty poor choice there. Not that Ancelotti makes many poor decisions in his managerial career, but I think that was a bit of a miss on his side of things. I honestly don't even think Real Madrid was the team that was on the field for the first 30 minutes. Like, I don't think they were in Manchester or the Etihad. Like, I don't think that team was actually Real Madrid. I think they were just all imposters. Because that wasn't even a football team as I was far. Like, Man City, like that was the most dominant like stretch at the start of the game that I have seen in it. Honestly, since Inter Milan did it to AC Milan, even more so though, really. In that game, Man City was really incredible. I think that was probably their best performance of the season, and they made a Real Madrid side that, as good as they looked pedestrian. They looked like a team that Spurs could beat. I mean, this was shocking. But nonetheless, Man City gets to move on. I do want to give a big shout out here to Jack Grealish. I think he's been incredible this season. I think he was really vital in that game. I think Gundogan was great. I think Silva, obviously with 2 goals, he was great. And I think Rodri stepped up because he struggled in game one. Yet, despite all of that, Courtois was still the best player in the entire game because that still might have been a 5-0, 6-0 game at half. So big shout out to Courtois for keeping it respectable. But overall, everywhere else aside from, 4 yards remaining in the box, I think Man City far outclassed Real Madrid. Any comments from you there, Jer?
well, I'm gonna put the Man U cap, down. I'm not gonna speak as a Manchester United fan. This is pure soccer fan Jeremy speaking here. I'm gonna start right now. Man City are great. They've shut me up. It's a really bad look for our debate topic because I have 2 people on my squad from Real Madrid. But yeah, they just look like the most complete team ever. Again, we know why, the funding, whatever, but just put that aside right now. There were some things going on Twitter after Man City defeated Real Madrid. I forget if it was ESPN FC or Bleacher Report, and people were saying like, "Is Pep the greatest manager of all time?" I went, "Whoa, slow your roll, slow your roll, slow your roll." Obviously, I'm going to say that title belongs to Sir Alex, and there's definitely ones prior to Sir Alex um, who have performed. I don't even know their names just because like obviously this is from like the 60s and 70s and 80s. But Fergie really started in the 80s with Aberdeen and then went over to United and then just turned United into the world power that it is today. Question mark, question mark. Pep is the greatest active manager. There's no denying that. I think the way that like the hype around him leaving Bayern, like even United were in talks with Pep, and then he went to City because he knew the plan. Um, I love Klopp, but this season's really put a damper on Klopp as a whole. Pep to me, and I don't know if you saw the interaction that him and KDB had. They were like kind of shouting at each other back and forth. Apparently, KDB told him to shut up, but it's just a bad look for KDB in my opinion. You don't tell your manager to shut up, no matter how good or how bad you are. Um,
He's been a little
Pep,
moody this season in
he has
general.
been. It hasn't been his best. I still think he's one of, if
He's
not the
world
best
class.
center
Well,
mid. Yeah, I think he's the
he's
best
just in
center
it.
mid.
He's in his like he's been listening to too much Taylor Swift. He's in his like revenge
Is
arc right now,
yeah,
He's just a little too
a
sassy.
villain? Is he a villain now?
He might be in his villain arc. He's in his villain arc right now. Sassy
No.
with Belgium, and now he's giving some cheek here to Pep. But the only thing I wanted to say, no manager is the greatest manager of all time unless they can win a title with Spurs. And I
That's good. That's good.
it's
I know what
fair.
you were gonna say, but
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
And I think Ancelotti's the only person that gives an argument, not wins, but gives an argument to
Yeah.
best active manager. And I think Pep kind of clearly won that title with the win, I think, sort of.
I think you're right. I love Ancelotti. He's done a lot for the sport. I was also going to make a point about Ancelotti. Like I get the deficit. Oh, excuse me. I really get the deficit. Like the being down 2-0 early, 3-0, 4-0. To me, there was just no like it. Just every shot of Ancelotti was just like and he's kind of a stoic person. You know, only when they celebrate titles is you see him like break a smile and getting thrown up in the air
It's
by
Bill
the
Belichick.
he is, right? Like I kind of see some similarities between the two. But Pep is just like everything he does is great. And go to the point on KDB being a little, on edge, I would say. I think this tournament is really crucial and integral. It's gonna be like a determining factor for most of these players' legacies, right? Including Pep Guardiola. It's City have won everything. The league, the FA Cup, Carabao, have they been in Club World Cups? I'm not sure. No, obviously not because they haven't won the Champions League, right?
Champions League now.
So I think for a lot of these players, it's like, oh, I reached that next pinnacle if we get Champions League. I think they've come so close for a very long time, like within the last 5 years. This core has been there, right? You're talking. I exclude Holland because obviously he just got there. KDB, Bernardo Silva, Ederson, Kyle Walker's been there for a few years now. Gundogan has been there for a couple years. So for a lot of these players, it's like that next hill, that next hump. And if they can get this, and I think we'll get into predictions. I don't know if we'll get into predictions this week or next week, or maybe because the game isn't until ways away. But spoiler alert, I really favor Man City in this one. I think all of our friends, I think you would say the same. I think all the friends in our group chat would say the same. Um, they, it's that last Infinity Stone for my movie fans out there. It is Thanos looking for that final stone. Once City get that last stone, boom, they have it.
I also want to point out that Man City has not had a negative result. They're not even negative, but hasn't dropped points in England since they drew to Nottingham Forest, and that was on February 18th.
Wow,
Everything else
that's
has been a positive result for them, or actually a win. That also includes the FA Cup, and they've drew once or twice in the Champions League during that stretch. But other than that, they've just been on like the most dominant run you've seen. And you could make an argument that this is one of the best teams of all time
I
if
think
they can
so.
if they can complete the treble, which is
Yes,
I think the Champions League's the Infinity Stone, the trebles like that's the next tier. That's the I think that's what put Pep's hat in the Sir Alex Ferguson conversation. If they get the treble with him at the helm, I think that puts his hat in the conversation with Sir Alex.
yeah,
I think
but
that's fair.
a
It
lot of
doesn't
people.
win the conversation, but I think that his hat is firmly in the ring, and that's a very serious debate.
There was a media outlet. I forget who it was again, but again, football Twitter is just it's always there on my feed. And it was someone interviewing Man City fans right before the second leg against Madrid, and someone was asking them like, "Would you sacrifice the FA Cup if it meant winning the Champions League?" And almost everyone said no. And he's like, "What do you mean? It's Champions League." He goes, "Yeah, but it's United." Now, again, as a fan, I am looking forward to this matchup. Call me crazy, but I think like United has a shot, even though I don't think they're going to win. But as a fan, I'm hoping that my team does. I'm going to watch that game with the intention of, oh, man, you have a chance to win this one. The only part of me is like waiting for that day where the lineup comes out and I'm saying, okay, maybe Pep is resting a few guys for the week after. I don't know. He might go all in, and I think he's going to. I think he should. I think Ten Hag will go all in because Man U will be off for a week after they finish up. They got the Premier League has 2 more weeks left, so barring any injury, Man U's going to have a full strength out there with Rashford and Bruno and De Gea and I who knows at center back? Who knows at center back? But Um, yeah, Man City are going all in. I think there's a great chance that they do get the treble. I think it's there. And again, this could be like we're gonna look back and be like, hey, remember that 22, 23 City team? We might be talking about them for a couple of years, maybe a decade down the line.
It's true. All right, so let's go to Europa. We don't have to spend nearly as much time on Europa. Just really wanted to bring this up more out of my own sadness, because I predicted Leverkusen to go through, and I watched them outshoot Roma 23-1 and have 72% possession and still lose 1-0 because of Jose Mourinho terrorist ball in the back. It was just painful. It was awful to watch. I hated it. Hated every moment of it. And Jose Mourinho is not the greatest manager of all time because he couldn't win with Spurs. He can win everywhere else, but he can't win with Tottenham. I really
not,
just,
he's not. He's not the GOAT, but he's
no.
one of like
Oh,
to
he
me.
is.
To me, he's one of the
Nobody,
best.
dude. I need one of these fantastic all-time great managers to be able to go into Tottenham with a trophy. Prove me wrong.
Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Pep.
Pep's just gonna get bored at City.
He's
He's
like, no,
gonna win.
I'll go to Tottenham just for the challenge.
I can't beat. That's the one team he can't beat. It's the one team he can't beat over the last 2-3 years. So why not, dude? It is so bad. I can't watch Roma play with a lead. It hurts to watch. Like it is physically painful to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It like that was, dude. They had one shot and they go down to the final. They had one shot.
But that's all they need though. Like I get it.
It is, but like, oh, dude,
I know. But here's my point. Like they just had to go through as any way. Like people say like what is it like by any means necessary, right? In a leg in a I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. In a match with two legs, all you have to do is just find that way, get to the final. And they did it in the most unattractive way possible. But
they weren't even the best team in leg one. They were
no,
just the team that scored. It's just I'm in the mud.
but
All of my teams except the Celtics kind of are after losing game one, but like all of my teams really are in the mud right now.
Is Leverkusen your Bundesliga club?
No, I just predicted they'd win, and like I thought they were gonna win. I thought they were gonna win Europa,
yeah.
so like that's why I'm kind of in,
I have Roma. Also, I had Roma winning, so
you do.
Don't be,
so I'm gonna have to bet against Roma naturally. But it's gonna be easy to back Sevilla because they have two Tottenham players who combined for this winning goal in extra time. Brian Gill assist to Eric Lamela sends them through.
Wow, what a Spurs connection! Holy
crap. So that just made my eyes bleed further. Watching that one live. Chances galore in that one too. I believe it was 45 total shots too. So there was a lot. It was 28-17 in terms of shots. Sevilla beating Juventus obviously 2-1 in that game. Juventus was disappointing overall in that contest. I think Vlahovic needs a new start. I think he needs a team that suits him better because I think he's just not playing with a club that fits his play style right now. I think he's just kind of like forced in there a little bit. It's like you lose the last puzzle piece, and it's just like you're trying to find something to make it look right. It doesn't look right.
I wonder where he'll go. Like, because I've seen his name.
Arsenal.
You think
I hate to say it, but I think he would do very well for Arsenal because I don't think Jesus is the guy for them. And if they have a guy who can play a little bit more with his back to goal, like Vlahovic, I think that would be a big step up for them. But I also could see Arsenal fans in general, maybe not the club, because I think as much as I hate to admit it, they've gone about things in the right way. If Vlahovic becomes a target, I could see fans being upset about it because they just don't think he's played well, like not understanding that he actually
until he scores like 20 goals, and then they'll be like,
he's extremely talented player that is just not in the right system. And that's just how I'm interpreting it right now. I think he's just a player that's not in the right system for him.
No, that's fair because I was saying like I've seen his name with United, but I'm like, you know what? No, I think Osimhen is the link to United. I think Harry Kane is a better fit to me at United than Vlahovic is. But
I think Harry Kane can fit anywhere because he's that damn good.
I think he's probably apart from Haaland, I think he's the best. That's just
he's the most versatile for sure.
Yeah, he is. And again, like his age is because compared to these kids, right? Like Osimhen's younger, Vlahovic is obviously younger, Haaland is younger, and all these strikers that are coming up there aren't as old as Harry Kane, but like you kind of want a player with that experience, the leadership. He's worn an armband, not only at the has he been Tottenham captain? I know with Hugo's the captain,
I mean, he's
but
filled in at
he's
times, but he's never been.
he's worn the armband at the biggest stage in the world, right? Like I kind of
Yeah.
give him credit. He's captain England's squad, and honestly, I would love him, but I think they're gonna go younger. We'll talk about United later, but yeah. So Roma Sevilla, oof,
It's
I don't
Sevilla's
know.
competition, man. Sevilla's
It is, and
competition.
I hate to admit that because they eliminate us every year,
It's
and
so funny. Not that they eliminated you, just that this is
Liga
like
owns
Sevilla's conversation.
La Liga owns Manchester United. I'll just say that right now.
La
Owen will
Liga,
back me up on that.
aside from Man City this season, La Liga kind of usually owns the Prem in European competitions, at least like at the highest level. Like typically they
Yeah,
do when it
typically like
matters the most.
Atletico, like those teams, like the Barcelona teams back in that. Like I mentioned last week, the 2011 Champions League final. I'm like Barcelona, that team just outclassed United at Wembley Stadium. I get it. I mean, Manchester is a couple hours away from London, but you're playing in your backyard, and you let this world class Barcelona team just take it to school. And yeah, but I don't know, with Barcelona winning La Liga, I hate to give them credit, but I think La Liga is on the way up. I think it's an upward trend, if I'm being honest. Just get some proper TV rights and you're fine.
The problem with the league is once you get past those top three teams, that really is the issue for the
There's a
league
little bit
in
of a
terms of,
fall off, like
well,
compared to
just
the
in terms of
Prem.
that
Yeah,
marketability. Like a lot of these other teams, I mean, Sevilla doing well this season in European
but like
competition, but in
Sociedad.
league, like how are you going to sell these other teams if they don't
Yeah.
have the proper investments and stuff? Because in general, they're not going to compete with Barcelona. They're not going to compete with Real Madrid for the title. So I think that's really their big issue in that league because at the top, they're as good, if not the best league.
Mhm.
Once you get past those 2, 3, then it becomes a big question for them. Final point on European competitions, Conference League, Fiorentina comes back and they advance. They'll play West Ham. It would be very interesting to see Serie A do the triple over European competitions. Could be interesting, but they will have the biggest club in London in their way in West Ham. So that'll be, of course, an interesting battle. Jeremy, one more point there before we move on to the Prem.
Yeah, to the fans of AC Algamar, piss off. That's all I'm gonna say. Really sad what happened at the game between AZ and West Ham. Just attacking the family and friends of these West Ham players, like is it's a shame to watch. I don't know if it's just a case of sore loser or what it is. Yeah, it was very sad to see that come through the Twitter feed from the past couple of days. You don't like to see that in a sport that you and I love. I hate seeing stuff like that with fans fighting people, with all the racial remarks going around. Like there's just I don't know if it'll ever stop. Unfortunately, it should, but yeah, the world needs to do a better job of limiting stuff like that. But we can move on.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the Prem. Results first. We're going to do results for all 5 leagues, then upcoming, then, of course, what's the T, and then obviously finish. So Prem results over the last calendar week. Newcastle and Leeds started things off with a 2-2 draw, which was a bit of a shocker to start the day. This was actually on our commencement day on Saturday.
This was, yes.
Chelsea and Forest drew 2-2. Spurs ruined my commencement day and lost 2-1 to Villa. I can't deal with how they start games. It's painful. They allowed a goal in the 8th minute. So I guess it is an improvement compared to, Liverpool and Newcastle, but 8 minutes is better than 4 or 2, I suppose. And my one bigger question is, why is Emerson Royale the best center back on Tottenham right now?
Is this his saving grace, Sammy? This is the new
Dude,
manager
no,
come in.
he is a right wing back. And I think he's played very well at right wing back before his injury. But the last 2 games, he has been the best center back for Tottenham, and I am morbidly concerned. Like, I didn't even have to watch Dyer play football, and I was very happy at the start of the game. And then I realized that Romero had a stinker after having a really good game against Palace. Langley was fine. But Rael is the best center back, and I just can't do it anymore. Moving on. Man U 2-0 over Wolves. They got a much needed result. City 3-up over Everton. Brighton 3-up over Arsenal. Bottlers Arsenal. Liverpool 3-0 over Leicester City. Leicester looking like they might be going down, which is good if you are a team recruiting James Madison, bad if you're a Leicester fan. And then Newcastle 4-1 over Brighton. Jeremy, let's hear what stands out to you.
Viva Garnacho. Dude, I love when Garnacho is in the lineup. And I have a hot take, and I actually got to hear this on one of the fan pages from United. Hot take, I think Garnacho might be the new number 7 for United in the next year or two. And it's a big deal with that shirt. Obviously, so many great names have worn the shirt. George Best, David Beckham, Edison Cavani, right? Like, to say the least. But um, watching Garnacho take over a game and coming back from injury after signing his new contract has just been a nice breath of fresh air for United fans, to say the least. And with a team that's kind of been a little nervy, dropping some points, dropping results to Brighton, fighting hard to get a win against Aston Villa. They United need these wins bad just to lock up top 4, and they get a real important win. They have Bournemouth and Chelsea, I believe, on their remaining schedule. So if they take one of them, I think it might do enough, but I like both. Brighton, on the other hand, what?
They also have Fulham, by the way. They have a game.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. But Brighton taking down Arsenal, who have been in the mud since their game against City. Love the Seagulls. Love what they're doing. They actually have a couple of links going on. I believe Dahoud from Dortmund will be a Brighton player next season. And
Yeah,
I'm
James
hearing
Milner too.
James Milner, and I'm also hearing Weston McKennie to Brighton is a huge rumor. I
I
saw that
think
come
that's only
through
if Leeds goes down, correct?
probably
Actually,
because I
he
don't
is
think I don't
alone though, isn't he? Isn't
it's
he? Or was he a permanent move?
I think
I
it was
can't
permanent.
remember.
I think it was permanent or like loan to buy, maybe.
Maybe.
But I don't see them splitting up him and Adams and Aronson if as long as if they stay up, I think they're going to stay. They'll get a new manager come in and they'll figure things out, I guess. But yeah, I love Brighton. The way that they're just playing right now. It's really cool to see the Amex just feel alive. Like I've always loved Brighton Stadium. And Brighton, if you don't know, for those who don't know, Brighton's like right on the coast, like the southeast coast of England. So they're right on the water, hence why their nickname is the Seagulls. But seeing the Amex kind of like a lively spot for the Prem has been really cool. And with Liverpool, they're finding their stride again. I've never doubted Jurgen Klopp. I think Jurgen Klopp is fine. I think Liverpool are going to be fine after this next transfer window because Liverpool is such a name.
They just need midfielders.
Yeah, and I think they're going to
Really
get
it.
them. I really do. But yeah, that's all I got for the PL.
Yeah, dude. I positive vibes. Let's go Spurs. Come on now. Harry Kane scored again. Let's go. No, they really do need a result, and they'll be playing Brentford this upcoming week. But let's move on to Serie A here. Kind of rattle through these next 4 leagues in general, just because they don't have as much on the line necessarily in terms of just standings in general. But Lazio least drew 2-2. Spezia beat Milan, that being AC Milan 2-0. Inter 4-2 over Sassuolo. Monza beating Napoli 2-0, but it really doesn't matter for Napoli. I think they're sort of like checked out. They're on vacation now. Like they have the title. They might be on permanent vacation for the rest of the season here. Roma 0-0 with Bologna and Juventus 2-0 over Cremonese. Anything there for you, Mr. Jeremy Striano?
Real quick, the one point I wanted to make out was from the Spezia Milan game. After the game, I've never seen this before, but AC Milan players went up to the traveling supporters from Milan, and the supporters were like preaching to the players. I've never seen that before, ever. The only time I've seen supporters and players interact is when they win like big titles and trophies and whatnot. I remember like Bayern handing out the beer to their supporters. but the supporters of AC Milan were just like kind of like talking down to the players, like, "Hey, like we traveled all this way, and you guys played, and it was a 2-0 loss, and I think they were just outplayed by this team that on any other day they could beat, in my opinion." Um, really, really
Spezia
interesting to see.
is tied for relegation right now. They're
Yeah.
in 17th, but they could be going down.
Mm-hmm.
They should absolutely get a result.
But yeah, that's really all that I've got that taken away, and we can move on to Spain.
I just wanted to point out that Napoli obviously locking up there, but Lazio's fallen all the way to fourth now. Juventus in second, Inter in third, Lazio fourth, AC Milan in fifth, 4 points behind with Roma on their tail, 2 points behind, and Atalanta on 58 points. So that 7 teams in the race for 6 spots, with number one being secured. So keep your eyes on that. La Liga, Real Sociedad drew 2-2 with Girona. Villarreal, a 5-1 win over Athletic Club. Real Madrid, 1-0 over Getafe. Elche, 1-0 over Atletico Madrid. 3-1 Real Betis, 3-1 over Rayo Vallecano. And then Barcelona, 4-2 over Espanyol. None of these results really impacting the overall La Liga standings all that much. But in general, I think this just kind of brings more of like my call to the summer transfer window. Real Sociedad, Villarreal, Real Betis, maybe Atletico, maybe Sevilla. Throw some money in the ring. Improve your overall squad. I want the La Liga to be more competitive. I want La Liga to have more of a draw. If they become more interesting, they're going to have more potential TV rights. I think they're going to be more interesting for the international viewer, the American viewer in general. Obviously, maybe they don't care too much about the American viewer, but obviously being an American podcast in America, we care about just in general all leagues as much as possible being interesting to the American consumer. The more teams that are, that's why the Premier League's so fascinating, is because the 20th best team can beat the best team unless it's this season and it's Manchester City. Like that is the most competitive league top to bottom. They don't have to have 20 competitive teams that it can maybe upset the best team, but having 5 or 6 teams that have a legit shot at Champions League would be a nice change for them. And I think if they can get a couple more competitive teams and really see Villarreal bolster their squad, see Real Betis bolster their squad, see Sevilla bolster their squad aside from just taking Tottenham loanees, like I think that would be a big boost to that league in general. So this is a little bit of a call to action for the offseason for some of those mid-table, mid to upper table La Liga teams, because I think this league has the most potential in general to just be more competitive and be more fun to watch, especially when you have a Real Madrid and Barcelona and Atletico Madrid at the top. Just want to see them in general be a more exciting competitive league there for the final, because there's just not a lot to talk about right now, because Real Sociedad has a 5-point gap between them and Villarreal. And then there's a 8-point drop from Real Betis to Girona, or 7-point drop. So there's really no conversation about who's going to end up where. It's kind of decided by now, which is just kind of disappointing, you know.
Yeah, no, I feel that, but I guess all that being said, congrats, I guess, to Barcelona on locking up the La Liga title. They were celebrating over in Espanyol's at their away game, but I really want to see some big network purchase the rights to La Liga. I don't know who it's going to be. Obviously, with NBC Sports, kind of losing out their physical channel and moving over to Peacock to streaming. Why do I have a feeling it's going to be Paramount or like
Paramount's
someone
with
like that? Like,
Serie A right now, though.
okay, I mean they could always take
And
on
ESPN
another.
Plus has Bundesliga. So I would think it might be like somebody else, maybe maybe an Amazon Prime bid. I mean, that could be
Ooh, I don't
like
hate that.
because I'm just trying to think of like other brands throwing their hat in there, because it does kind of
Yeah,
seem like a one-stop shop. Like one league has a home, and
yeah,
it's really kind of uninterfered with, unless you want to compare like Bundesliga to the Championship on ESPN Plus. But I mean, in general, that's really all you're getting is like what kind of one-stop shop. So I wouldn't hate like an Amazon Prime bid for that, or even Amazon Prime for League One, and try to like really throw a little money in their ring to get them competitive, because they have some cool stadiums, some cool atmospheres, and cool teams. It's just in general, nobody can compete with PSG over there. So anything in general, I'm just pro making things more competitive, because our conversations for some of these other leagues just become really dull and dry because there's just not a lot to talk about.
Oh,
So that's kind of just more in general my petition is I want these other leagues outside of the Prem, Serie A to be more competitive. Bundesliga too. Bundesliga's been a bit more fun this season to be more
mhm.
competitive. But all right, that with that said, we'll move on to the Bundesliga. So in the Bundesliga, the results are Bayern 6-0 over Schalke, Dortmund 5-2 over Mönchengladbach, Leipzig 2-1 over Werder, Leverkusen 1-1 Stuttgart, and Union Berlin 4-2 over Freiburg. Mr. Jeremy Striano, what are you looking at?
I mean, this race is just, it's going to come down to it, right? I mean, I got to pull up the
It
Bundesliga
comes
table here.
down to this weekend, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It is
So,
this weekend. It is Bayern Leipzig.
wow. 68, 67. Holy. See,
If
like,
Bayern
I,
beats Leipzig, I think it's over.
oh, yeah. Well, no. I
Yes.
mean, you think so?
I think that result decides it. Because I think Dortmund win out, and I think Bayern win their final game aside from this game.
Okay.
So I think if anything's gonna happen, it's gonna be the Leipzig and Bayern game.
Wow. I mean, who are you pulling for?
Oh, Dortmund. I'd rather Dortmund to go to win it. I also like Leipzig, so I wouldn't hate seeing them beat Bayern. I also
Okay.
just think Bayern sort of just need like a reality check as a club because they're just in a really bad way. And them winning a title, I don't think would help them in the overall like grand scheme of things. Like I don't, they're not like a club that I actually like want to fail because as far as like the bigger clubs in general, like they go about their business in the right way for the most part. They don't throw around stupid money. They have a lot of players that I do personally like, but I do think in their current state, they kind of just need like a gut punch, a reality check,
Hmm.
and a reason to kind of reset themselves and reinvest in the kind of just I don't know, recenter themselves in the summer. So I want to see Dortmund beat Bayern and just in general see Bayern have a little bit of failure for that reason because I think they'll come back stronger next season. Because the Bayern we saw this season wasn't competitive on the European scale, not competitive enough in terms of what
That's
we. So I think that's kind of where I'm coming from is they're just not in the place where you'd expect a Bayern to be. And I think them losing and not winning the title this season would allow them to kind of look themselves in the mirror and figure out what it would take to get them there.
yeah, that's a fair statement. I agree.
Anything else there, or go on to Ligue 1
No,
quickly?
we can go on. We can go on to the Farmers League. I mean, Liga.
The Farmers League. Lille, Monaco, 0-0. Only match I cared about, and it was a stinker. And then PSG and Lens, as well as Marseille, all win. So PSG on top of Lens, 6 points. Marseille, 2 points back at Lens. Aside from that, really no conversations to be had. Okay, the Prem upcoming results. Not even gonna ask. They're just
No,
nothing.
yeah, no.
That's in general. League going, oh my god, snooze fest. There really are only like storylines if there's upsets. It's really
Yeah,
or the top three teams play each other.
right.
Um, but here are the games coming up. You tell me what tickles your fancy. Man City, Chelsea. That one tickles my fancy.
It does.
Arsenal, Forest, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Tottenham, Brentford without Ivan Toney for the first time. Leeds, West Ham, Newcastle, Leicester, Wolves, Everton, Man United, Bournemouth.
So I actually really love the Liverpool Villa game for some reason. I think those teams just matched up great. But let's be real. The Man City Chelsea, I'll give a spoiler. It's one of my locks for the week. Just because like when you have these marquee matchups, they market them so well over here. And even
You
though
can
Chelsea,
lock up the
yeah,
title with that too.
it sure can. And I mean, like when you have Chelsea, even though they're in the form that they are in, it's still a draw, man. It's still a draw. Like even when United dropped to eighth place that one year, I don't want to talk about it again, but they were still, it's still United. It's still like Tottenham will always be a draw. City will always be a draw. Arsenal will always be a draw. Now Newcastle will be a draw. Anytime you get those two heavyweights together, it's gonna be must watch television. So if you're gonna watch one game, make sure it's the one that's nationally televised.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Honestly, as much as I am, obviously pay attention to Tottenham. I am keeping my eyes on Liverpool, Aston Villa, because that's pretty important in terms of whether Liverpool has any hope of catching United in those kind of like Europa placements and everything like that. So keep an eye on those, but also the Leeds West Ham game is very important in terms of Leeds United because they're currently in 18th. So a win against West Ham could really help them and also put West Ham in a potentially because they're like West Ham right now, I would say is the last team that should really concern themselves with potentially like they're in 15th. They're currently 6 points. Actually, wait, my math is terrible. 8 points clear. Like, oh no, 6 points. Okay, 37 to 31. Sorry, math is hard. They're the last team that's like can kind of consider it since it's 6 points and maybe like everyone wins where you need to. So you're like kind of maybe paying attention to it. But aside from that, it really is a conversation between five teams: Southampton, Leicester City, Leeds United, Everton, and Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest being the best case scenario on 34 points, but they're still only 3 points clear of Leeds. So if Leeds were to beat West Ham and Everton were to lose to Wolves, that would make things very, very, or even Leeds getting a draw against West Ham. Then you've got to draw a tie on 32, 32 points
32.
for 18th. God, I am struggling with the whole 1+1 type of thing today. But kind of get my point. There's a lot to pay attention to in terms of that relegation battle. Jeremy, if you got to pick the three teams that go down, not in terms of out of those five teams that are currently in the bottom five, who would you most like to keep out of the five teams? Tell me the two
Ooh.
teams you'd most like to keep in the Prem. You
Out
don't
of the
have to give me
bottom
a reason. Don't give me a reason. Just tell me who.
out of the bottom five.
So out of Forest, Everton, Leeds, Leicester, Southampton, if you could pick two to stay, who would it be?
Okay. This is tough. But just because of I don't know why, but like I have this like appreciation for Nottingham Forest for some reason. I know they've been kind of like whack with like buying everybody, but it wasn't like Chelsea like buying players that were like costing like 50, 60, 70, 80 millions of dollars. They're also loaning in players as well, bringing in Keylor Navas to
They
City
won't have him
Ground.
next season, though.
I know, but still, like bringing them in for this season, like their goal was to stay up, and that's what it's. I don't want to. I don't want to say anything because anything could happen, right? But this is going to be a very controversial answer because if I was talking to United fans,
Don't you
they
don't even
would
don't even have to do just you want to see stay up.
Nottingham and Leeds. I want to see Leeds stay just because of the fact that we as America have three of our starting 11 players playing for Leeds United, and I think they can thrive in the Premier League. And they've been showing some promising form over there. They will dominate the championship. I think Leeds will dominate the championship with those three American players in McKennie, Adams, and Aronson, but also with players like Sinistera, who would be probably the leading scorer over in the championship next season. Um, yeah, give me Forest, give me Leeds. Sorry, Everton. I know. I mean,
Okay.
I shouldn't be liking them just because they're a Merseyside team. United don't like Liverpool. They don't like Everton. They don't like Leeds United. But I also want to see Leicester go down so that Apoku can thrive in the championship. So
Okay. So I want Everton Leeds to stay up. Sean Dice is just too entertaining. I want
yes, I love him.
I
I
want him
love
to
Sean
stay up.
Dyche.
So I would like to see him stay up, and I would like to see Leeds stay up just for similar reasons that you said. And I don't think Forest not being able to have Keylor Navas next season, I think they're just going to be way worse. So I think they'll go down next season. So I just think it'll kind of be all for naught to a certain extent. I mean, they could make purchases, but in current form, in current state, I think they'll go down next season. So given that, and I also want players from Leicester on Tottenham. I want James Madison. He's one of my favorites. So would like to see that be made possible. Obviously, Southampton already locked into that going down state. Moving on, let's go to the Serie A. There's not a whole lot going on except for Napoli and Inter squaring off. Lazio Udinese isn't a bad game either, but nothing else really, striking my interest. So, any comments on Napoli Inter, or since Napoli's got it locked up, so this game is far more important for Inter in terms of just staying in a Champions League spot. I mean, Napoli has very little reason to care aside from maybe avenging being knocked out of the Champions League. So those are kind of the two sides of the coin as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, my thing is just staying healthy. Just making sure that Inter just you don't want to see anybody going down. Right before you want to see Onana. You like to see Onana keep his form. Maybe he pitches a clean sheet against Napoli just to continue that momentum going into Istanbul in just a few weeks' time. Making sure players like Barella, Dzeko, and Lukaku, just making sure that they're healthy. You want your attacking options to stay healthy, and that back line too. I know you know, Denzel Dumfries has been, one of my favorite players to watch this year too, and he had a pretty good game against Milan, keeping that clean sheet against their crosstown rivals. So for me, it's health, and just to get out of that game with any result, still play for the win, but play a more conservative style of football for the next couple of weeks.
I also think they're probably locked in a little bit more if you're Inter on Wednesday because they're going to be taking on Fiorentina in the Coppa Italia final.
Mm,
So something they'll definitely be paying attention to quickly before we move on. Who do you have in that, Fiorentina or Inter?
I'm gonna go Inter. I think just the form that they're on has been impressive. Although Fiorentina, making a European final themselves, I love that purple. I love the purple of Fiorentina. Their kits just always work. You got to look at the kits from the '90s, Sammy, with the Nintendo and Super Mario on their kits from back in the day. It's a great matchup, but I'm gonna favor Inter Milan. I'll go 2-0.
I was going to say 3-1. All right. So La Liga, Barcelona, Real Sociedad. That's a decent little contest right there. 1v4. Real Madrid and Valencia is just a matchup you've seen a lot of. Valencia not very good this season, but still, you know, it's a La Liga matchup that you're pretty familiar with. And then Real Betis and Sevilla. I think that one's probably a little more interesting in terms of just Sevilla's current form, still being in the European competition. Any comment on these three games? And if not, why?
I think this is a must-win game for Real Betis just to lock up at least Europa League for next season. Betis to me have been a team that have really improved over the last, I would say, let's go 5 years, just in terms of like the way they've developed. Because you've said, and this is to your original point, Sammy, like apart from the top three of your Madrid clubs and Barcelona, it's kind of like who's fourth, who's fifth. And over the past couple of years, there are a couple of times where I've said Real Betis might be my number four, apart from like Sevilla and Bilbao and Villarreal and Sociedad. So to me, I think Betis just needs to just continue acquiring European football, continuing, just trying to bring in as much funds as they can, and just continue to recruit from leagues outside of Spain, smaller leagues like maybe Dutch leagues or let's go. Maybe Portuguese leagues as well. Just trying to bring players across the border from Portugal to Spain to play in a more prominent league. Although, me, I love the Portuguese league, but for me, this is a must-win for Betis just to kind of keep that European standard, with their club.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's move on to the Bundesliga. Bayern and RB Leipzig, the game of the week. Dortmund and Augsburg, Leverkusen, Mönchengladbach, and Freiburg, Wolfsburg. Let's pretend we have any interest in the bottom three and actually just skip over that to Bayern, Leipzig. That's where all of our attention is going to be. I'm going to give actually just to not put you on, I put you on the spot a lot. So I'll give my prediction first here
Okay.
because that doesn't happen a lot. 2-2. I think it's going to be 2-2.
Ooh.
I think
Okay.
these are the points that Bayern can afford to drop. I think Dortmund has no issues against Augsburg. And I think Dortmund locks up the one spot and control their own destiny the rest of the way. Jeremy, what do you think? What are we thinking? And
I'm
I think it's going to
thinking.
be a late equalizer too from Leipzig, like
You think in
mid
Cuckoo
mid
like
80s,
90th? Okay.
mid 80s, something like that. I hear me out here. This might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm thinking like Timo Werner.
Whoa, what a name, huh?
Timo
Chelsea
Werner,
legend.
maybe a Gavardio header. Those are the two options I'm thinking of.
Vardio header would be pretty fire. Okay. Well, let's look at Bayern's. So Bayern have won three of their last five. Leipzig have won four of their last five. So you got teams. Man, this is like a toss. This could really be a toss up, in my opinion.
But
Oh,
Bayern can't afford a draw.
No, they can't, and I don't think they'll get it. I think they'll win. I think they're going to win 2-1. In terms of goal scorer, give me. Ooh, I could see the youngster Musiala, maybe banging in a goal to kind of lock up that title. Obviously, you got players like Mane and Muller, who to me, Thomas Muller is one of my favorite players to watch, and he's been with Bayern my entire childhood. But you can't bet against like so, this team. I'm looking at this team right here on paper, and it's just it to me. It's top three in the world. I think they're like three compared to City and Madrid. But like, how does this team not win Bundesliga? To me, it's going to be a case of like they'll beat themselves if they, if anything goes haywire. To me, it's just another day in the park for them. But with Tuchel, things are different and all that. I get it, but Tuchel's a winner. I think he will do whatever it takes to take these last 6 points in this competition. And I'm gonna go Bayern 2-1. Even though again I want Dortmund, but Carl Winter, Mia San Mia. I think your boys will get it done.
Well, as much as he is a winner, he still did lose 3-0 to Man City in the first leg and saw
That's
their
true.
team eventually get eliminated and also lost in the DFB Pokal in the quarterfinal to Freiburg. So losses do happen to this team, and they're not playing Schalke every week. They're not going to win 6-0 like they do against Schalke.
R.I.P.
So
Sean.
I'm just saying, it's possible. Ligue 1, Lyon, Monaco, Lille. I know.
Leo. Leo.
I know. But Lille is just so much more fun.
Lele.
Lille and Marseille will battle it. See, Lille and
It
Marseille.
sounds
It
like
just sounds more
you're
fun.
hitting on a girl. Sounds like you're hitting on a woman named Lily. Just from like, what's up, Lele? Like, you know what I'm saying?
But
Like,
tell me this isn't more attractive. Lille and Marseille versus Lille and Marseille. Tell me not. Tell me
Marseille
not.
Lele. I like Marseille
That's what I'm
Lele.
saying. That's what I'm saying. But aside from me just not being able to speak, do you care about either of these matchups? I do think Lyon and Marseille might be a decent watch. Lyon Monaco is always a decent little pairing, but in general, they don't really impact things too much because again, Monaco's 5 points ahead of Lille for fourth place, and they're still 8 points back of Marseille. Lille, they need a result to stay up on Rennes. Lyon could use a win, but in general, like it's weird because the only spots for Champions League that are confirmed are the top two, and those
Right.
seem pretty safe. But Marseille needs a win to keep pace, just in case Lens is to drop a match for whatever reason. They do play Lorient. I don't see them losing or dropping points necessarily Lorient, but it's one of the better teams in Ligue 1. So anything can happen. Any comment there? Should we move on to some tea?
Well, you know me, I'm always going to back OM. I love Marseille, and they have a decent form for the last five. Their last loss actually coming last week to Lens. So,
Mhm.
and their last draw was to Lorient. So again, they've kind of owned that bottom tier of league on football. Um, but yeah, that 2-3 race is going to come down to the last and final week. I'm hoping Marseille edge Lens in terms of that final spot, but this one is another like just flip of a coin for me.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, it's time for a little tea. There is a lot of tea, especially because we're starting to approach that summer transfer window. You should see the shared document that Jeremy and I have. It is just like there's the
It's
amount.
mostly links. Yeah, it's like links
There's
to clubs.
there's
Yeah.
so much tea, so much tea. So I'm not going to read all of this because this is a little excessive in terms of the tea that I've compiled. But I'm gonna do some of the important ones here. So Ivan Toney being banned for 8 months, 50,000 fine is pretty big. Spurs are no longer considering Nagelsmann apparently because
Oh.
they're just a dysfunctional organization that it refuses to just be proactive and go after a new sporting director, director of football, and they are just in the mud. So that would explain that. Groningen and Ajax is a match that is abandoned after fans threw smoke bombs to protest the relegation there of Groningen. So that was interesting. Hearts go out there to Paul Pogba, first start in over a year, got hurt in 24 minutes. So feel bad for him. Long way to return. He's got mixed opinions across football, but in general, you'd rather see players play than not play. Um, so we feel bad for him there. Kim Min Jae to United is a link, which is I'm sure exciting. Mr. Jeremy Striano, Balogun, he is one of us. One of us. Get in. It's he. Get it? Because like us,
Us, like you, like
United States.
us.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very funny, man. Very funny.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Funny man. Funny man. Okay. And then so I also saw two different reports, Sadio Mane both wanting to leave and wanting to stay. At some point during this conversation, I'd like you to answer what should he want, just from your perspective, Jeremy. Not Villarreal, Villa, West Ham, and Spurs registering interest in James Ward-Prowse. Spurs also linked to David Raya, to Hincapi, Laporte, Koku. So there's a couple different links there for Tottenham. Champions League to be the deciding factor for McAllister. So United and Liverpool are in that debate there. United also linked to Dortmund keeper Kobel. So keep your eye on that. Chelsea are interested in Osimhen. Do they throw another obscene bag of money around? Let's wait and see. Villa and Torres links continue. He's going into the final deal of his year next season, so he'll likely be on the move. Yassim submits one more bid there to try and get and beat out Jim Ratcliffe. They want a Prem foothold and could allegedly, hopefully, more hopefully, look into Spurs if their bid fails, because they want one of the top clubs. Spurs are a fringe top club, albeit that, but you know, should that fail with United, I wouldn't hate a little oil money behind my club. Hugo Lloris and Lucas Moura are committed to be gone this summer. You feel bad. They gave a lot to the club, but it is more than time, especially for Lucas Moura. Xhaka, Leverkusen, Kimmich linked to Real Madrid last week, linked to Barcelona this week. Tell Almani stays. He kind of psychs out Aston Villa. A lot of potential players leaving United, but that's the tea. Jeremy, what are you sipping on?
Well, first of all, I really want to give a shout out to Flo Balogun. We talked about it with Owen when he was on, and now it's finally made official by the national team itself. Look, as a avid United States men's national team supporter, I haven't been this excited in a long time. Like to me, they're like they do something every year where it's like they get you excited for that next tournament. Now this summer we got the Gold Cup coming up, so it's really cool to get to see him. Hopefully he gets some time. Gold Cup, and this team is just, I think that it's the best that the United States has been since the mid '90s. Don't at me. I really wanted to add to that list. According to one of our sources here, from I want to get his name because he's actually from Syracuse and he runs a blog for the Chicago Fire. Jesse Marsh linked to become the new men's national team manager. So, you know me, I've been calling for that for months now. It just seems like it's too perfect of a fit, but I won't spend all my time on that. That could be for a future episode. Let's talk about Ivan Toney. I was texting my cousin, who is a Liverpool supporter, big soccer fan. Shout out Michael Trainer. He said to me, quote, surprise it's not a year. Do you think the ban is too short for gambling purposes? Do you think it's like a small penalty, or do you think it's enough, Sam? I want to get your opinion.
Sorry, hang on. I got distracted because I saw Syracuse's men's soccer team take a picture with Harry Kane. So I got
Oh,
a
you
little
didn't see that
distracted.
yet? That's
No,
pretty. That's
I
pretty
just saw
rad.
that. Sorry. Can you repeat your question? Sorry. That was like the one thing that was going to distract me, and I
No,
saw
you're,
that.
you're good.
So,
You're good. Basically, what I was texting my cousin, and he sent me the article when Tony got banned for 8 months, and
hmm.
his response was surprised it wasn't a year. Do you think the ban and the fine is a little too like? Is it too little of a penalty? Do you think it should be more? What I just want to hear your opinion.
I think there were a lot of infractions, man.
Yeah,
There were a lot. They have a lot on him. I think if this were if this were an American sport, that would have been like maybe even a lifetime ban. Like that would have been like the most severe. punishment. So I think 8 months is a little lenient. Yeah, but the problem with football is they kind of do this to themselves because they have these gambling companies on their kits. So in a way, like I don't want to say like he should get a pass, but like I think soccer, football, which like I think they do it to themselves by having these gambling sponsors on their kits to a slight extent. Like most of this falls on Tony's shoulders, but I think it's hard to like put a severe punishment on Tony when that's how that's kind of being paraded around on many kits on some of these top teams in the world. So I think it's a little iffy. I do think it should have been a year. But in general, I do feel a little bit as to like understanding why they can't be super harsh on gambling because of the connections.
Right. Okay, we'll move on to some transfer links too. Obviously, the
Yeah.
top one being Kim and Jay, because for the longest time it was reported by almost everybody but Fabrizio, and then
Mhm.
Fabrizio had a quote, and basically the quote is saying that United are going to pay his release clause, which is effective July 1st, I believe, is when the transfer window officially opens. If you're going off
Mhm.
of through the FIFA video game rules, um, so I believe his release clause will be 50 million euros, which is fine. The only problem I have with current state of Man United right now is that there are reports saying that the budget for Man United is between 100 and 150 million euro. So, do you blow a third of the budget on Kim and Jay? Is it worth it to blow a third of the budget on Kim and Jay? To me, yes. And I'll tell you why. Harry Maguire is gone. And if you can find a way to keep Lindelof around in the system, I'm happy with keeping Lindelof as like a third, fourth center back. Bill Jones is leaving. Thank God. Um, and then you look at someone like Rafa Varane, who I think is a world class center back, but he's not a spring chicken anymore. I hate to say that. Like his best days are still in him for a little bit. I think for like a year or two, he'll have his remarkable performances. And then obviously when Licha gets back healthy, to me that pair is one of the best in the Prem. When they're healthy, they are one of the best. You need someone like Kim and Jay when Licha goes down like that to just fill in, especially if you're going to be playing a lot of games with the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, the Champions League, hopefully. You need quality depth, and it's something that United have lacked when it comes to defense. No disrespect to Wambasaka or Delo. I love their right back options, but then you go out left, right, and you have Luke Shaw. Then you have what? You have Alex Tellez at the point when we first signed him. I was like, okay, it's a reliable option. But I think left back is another place to look at. I love Luke Shaw. I think he's a starter. I think he's great. He's come back into his true form when United purchased him from Southampton. But they just need depth. And I think Kim and Jay brings quality depth to them. Also in the midfield, you saw Marcel Sabitzer went down with an injury. He is now out for the remainder of the season. So he will not be available for any of the Prem games nor the FA Cup final. Someone like McAllister could bolster that because of the same point. Christian Eriksen is not a spring chicken anymore. I can still fool around with Bruno being like late 20s, like he's in his prime, I think. And is his form inconsistent? Sure. But in the end, he's still a reliable center attacking mid. If he had another complementary option to play alongside him in the middle, you know, a midfield of McAllister, Bruno, and Casemiro to me is like lights out. Um, and then with Kimmich to Madrid, like, can we stop with the midfielder links to Madrid? Like, Bellingham is pretty much set in stone. But like to me, like when is enough enough? I get it. You want to have quality depth and you want to have all the players in the world accessible to you, but like, come on, save some for the rest of us. Like if United never signed Casemiro, I would have been like, hell, I want Kimmich. I think he's one of the best number sixes in the world. And now my last point with the ownership of Manchester United, I have a very strong feeling that the Glazer family will still be involved with this club next year. I think this is all too good to be true. I think the bid is I think the bid from Sheikh Jassim is very promising. I believe the estimated value of the bid is somewhere around £7 billion, which is a lot. It's a lot of money. Uh, the Glazers put a value of United. It was like somewhere like 5 point something, and they were going to look for bids, accessing that. And I think they said 6 was their ballpark. Here you are with 2 extra billion pounds being sent to you. I think this is all a front. I think this is all a scam. I think they just want to manipulate and get the fans, hopes up. Um, I do think that group with Sir Jim will be the group that they decide with because of the fact that Sir Jim will own 69%, nice, of Manchester United, which will still leave some kind of authority with the Glazer family. And I hope to God that they know what's going to come from these fans and loyal supporters of the club when they sell to Sir Jim and the whatever his firm is called. I know it's like that Inos or whatever it is. When they sell to Sir Jim and the Glazers keep some part, right? The point of this is United fans like myself want the Glazer family to have zero. So when they get their share from 100 to 31, it's not enough for us, Sammy. It's not. No matter what, when the Glazer family is involved in this club, Manchester United will never be the world power they once were. They will always be a recognizable name, but they will not be the same.
All right. Fair enough. I just kind of want to respond to a couple of things. First off, in terms of United, so it seems their transfer option here is to either go big money for a striker or to really bolster in a couple
Yeah.
different areas. I'm hoping in terms of just like as an outside here, hoping for United, because obviously having a few United friends here, wouldn't hate to see maybe if they don't get one of the big money strikers and they try to bolster the rest of the squad, maybe an summer transfer window of Kim and Jay, McAllister, maybe a Vlahovic and a Frimpong would
I would
be
love that.
that's kind of like what I'm thinking about is like if they because I think you're weaker on the right than you are the left because I think Malacia is a pretty good backup option on the left there to Luke Shaw. I actually rate him a little higher than I would, um, maybe rate Velo personally. But I think that if you could bring Frimpong on the right, it's just start in front of Wan-Bissaka, then you're starting to get a little bit of a conversation there in terms of just overall general improvement. Plus, you have 3 quality potential starters in terms of center back. Your back line's locked up. Maybe if you got an extra 15, 20 mil, you could float to an investment goalkeeper. Maybe give 2 more seasons to De Gea, then move on to that guy. I think that
Yeah,
would
I've
be
seen a name to throw out there, like a cheaper option is the goalie from I don't know how to say it. I never know how to say this team's name. Is it Nantes from
Oh,
Ligue
I know
1?
who you're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
Albin
yeah,
Albin
yeah.
Albin Lafont has been the name that I've seen. I've seen Magnan, I've seen Onana, I've seen Kobel, I've seen all these, Jan Sommer is someone that I've seen United linked to. I just
Yeah.
don't think I just don't think a big money move for a goalie is where they need to go right now. Right now. Maybe January, maybe next summer. But I've seen Albin Lafont as a cheaper option. I think that he's a great player. He's a little bit taller than De Gea. He can come in and start for this club. I mean, but I just think there's other positions that need to be prioritized before goalkeeper.
Okay, that's fair. Final comment is just personally on just Tottenham links in general too. I want as many center backs as possible to put Eric Dyer further and further down the depth chart. I also saw a link that Dyer is potentially getting offered a 3-year extension to his contract. I will burn this flag if he gets a 3-year extension. He has done nothing to deserve it. He has done absolutely nothing to deserve it. He's accepted as a leader in the locker room. That's okay. But if he touches the field, I'm gonna riot. So I can't watch him play center back anymore. He is dreadful, dreadful,
Me too,
absolutely
man.
dreadful. Absolutely. He is Pizza Man. He's dreadful. And I don't want to see him play center back. If I could see a back three, especially if Tottenham commits to the back three, especially if you're going to bring in Udoji and have Pedro Porro on the right, I want to see them be able to progress further and forward. So I think staying with the three in the back would be the right play. Laporte, Romero, and Hincapi would be a pretty nice back three. If you ask me, it might be Koku instead of one of those two options, because if you bring in the Feyenoord manager who's been linked to Spurs, that probably makes more sense. But in general, that's kind of where I'm at. But all right, that means it is time for a little Ted Lasso talk. Okay, this episode started weird. Started weird.
A little bit, a little bit.
Not like weird, but like weird vibe. In terms of like didn't know what to expect. But overall takeaways. I love Jamie Tart. He has become my favorite character this season. Like Sword, he's number one now, like far and away. I absolutely love him. Him going to Roy's Uncle's Day, a little party, and giving him the gift,
Oh,
unbelievable.
great
The gift
scene.
was great, and it was just a funny scene. Him wearing 24 for Sam, like absolute. This episode made me cry twice again. That brings our tally up to 4 on the season.
Yeah.
Um,
Was
so
that the part
I
that made you cry when he wore the number?
that was one of them.
Yeah.
I also low key cried during Rebecca's soccer speech, which is spoiler alert, our quote at the end of this. I couldn't let that not be it. It was incredible. I like was very close to crying during Roy's letter to Keeley too. That was almost number 3 of the episode, which would have been a new record for Ted Lasso. So up the Ted Lasso. But other takeaways. I needed the Roy and Keeley rejuvenation. I'm so happy, so happy. Keeley went through a lot in that episode. She did went through
Did.
a May might be the most underrated character in Ted Lasso.
Oh,
Might
May
be the
is a
most underrated.
legend.
Might be the most underrated character in the episode, or in the episode and in the show.
Joe.
Rebecca for me might be the goat of the season, because she's just been a rock this season. Like she has just owned the room of white rich men. She's been like super caring in big moments, giving some really good advice. Has had some really funny moments. Boy, I never know what to expect from Higgins whenever he opens his mouth.
Higgins is funny, man. The
I
character of Higgins is hysterical. Hysterical.
every time he talks, I never know what to expect. There was one quote where it was like, oh, why? Because he's an emotionally erratic billionaire with a temperament of one of those kids in Willy Wonka that gets murdered in the chocolate factory. Rebecca says, I don't think that's what happens, Leslie. He's like, I hate to break it to you, Rebecca, but those children are dead. I lost it. Just lost it. It was so good. So good. Absolute gold. Danny Rojas, that whole episode was hysterical, and he poked Van Dam's nose. Just apparently you don't want to have Danny Rojas as your opponent.
No,
Lesson
no,
learned.
you don't.
Lesson learned. And then I hate Kung Fu. He's the worst, and he continues to try to screw over Sam because he's a child. Anything else, Jeremy?
I know you're not a big fan of him, but we're seeing a lot of development come around with the character of Nate. So it came out that he quit. So it said he was out, right? It said
Mm-hmm.
he was out as West Ham manager. Then he's in bed, and Jade kind of like comforts him because Jade's going to Poland to visit her family for a little bit. And when he admitted to quitting his job, it was just like, huh, okay. So now there's so many. See, this is also the reason why I hope this is not the end of the show itself, because there are so many storylines that you can do with this show, not just from AFC Richmond, but like Nate getting a new job. Does he come back to Richmond? Does he manage another team? Does he go? And also, the two parts that I want to say about Nate. First one was his scene with his dad. That to me hit home. Because I've had conversations with my own father, being like, you've had opportunities that I don't have. I just really want you to be great at what you do, and it was a really nice scene, and it kind of made me tear up watching it, just because like it just reminded me of the times where my dad's been like, hey, don't be like me, be you, like don't like. But I know I don't want to cry again, but and then him him doing the little act of setting up the locker room for Will was, to me, I was like, wow. Because I'm like, oh, Will's coming in and all the kits are up. And then it's just, I'm sorry, the Wonder Kid. And I went, wow. okay, okay, Mr. Shelley, you're kind of growing on me a little bit, but you need a lot of telling Ted to go f himself is something that I think is a lifetime ban in hell. But it was a real big episode for Nate. We're seeing him and his parents. Nate's mom is a angel of a woman. I love Nate's mom. She's the best. And Nate's dad showing his personality a little bit there was really cool to see. The uncle party was awesome. I love Roy and Phoebe interactions. I think
The
Phoebe is
tie-dye was
fantastic. The
fantastic.
tie dye is awesome. Everyone kind of like and the little scene of, you said Higgins. To me, I think the most underrated performer of this season is Trent Krim. I think the addition to him at Richmond has been genius. However, the two funniest characters apart from Ted Lasso to me are Leslie Higgins and Coach Beard. Coach Beard to me is a riot. And it was the scene where Roy comes in with the shirt and Trent asking Beard, like, where are you from? And he's like, that's too personal. And then they come in and they see Roy with the tie dye and they're like, Roy gives them the like the little grunt and then Beard just kind of opens up and just goes, I'm from Peoria. Like just lines like that. Like he's actually from Chicago. It's funny. But like it's just the writing is good. The writing's there. I know people are criticizing it on social media because they're comparing it to seasons 1 and 2. So we have 2 episodes left. There is so much you can do with this show. We don't know where Richmond are going to finish. We don't know if they're going to qualify for any competitions. And screw Edward Goofy because he's a little, you know, he's a
Valid.
pain. And he, the way that the nicest guy in the show, to me, he's the nicest, is Sam. The most genuine person, a great teammate, dare I say, a great lover to Rebecca. I'm sure like she kind of still cares about him, even though I don't know how if
The
that ship's
interaction
gonna.
they had was the most uncomfortable, relatable,
Yeah,
because I feel like we've all had that moment with the girl that
yeah,
we're
no,
into.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what to say, and like it's like a
Like the hey, little like hey,
yeah, it was
see,
yeah, that
I'll
was
see you in
so
geometry. Like,
that was tough.
but no, like Sam to me is the most genuine person on that show. I put him on a tier one in terms of genuine, like just ability with Ted. I think him and Ted are just two of the most best people that they have built, that they have written on this show. So with 2 episodes left, I have a lot of questions that need answering. I hope we do get some answers, but the main one being, I really hope this isn't it. Even though they said 3 is the perfect number, I think the amount of success that this has, and with the amount of backlash that season 3 has been getting, I think season 4, maybe season 5 allows it to kind of like bring the old, like genuine, just raw, funny talent and just ability that season 1 was. So who knows where the show goes, but decent episode, if I'm being fair. Decent.
I think there's too many loose ends for this to be the end. For two
Yeah, I
more
think there
episodes
is
to be
there's
end.
way if they
So
end like they ended here for good, I'm gonna be very mad. Very mad.
so I think 4 would be the right way place to stop it. Because then you're not going too long. You give yourself time to wrap things up. You can maybe do one more cool thing in terms of maybe European competition, winning some type of trophy,
I'm
something.
saying get them to Champions League. Get them to
I think
Champions
I
League.
think one more season is what this needs. Um, Again, I love Jamie. Nate needs to apologize to Ted for me to give him any type of credit or
Yeah.
respect. There's a reason he wasn't in any of my notes until all the good he can do. If he doesn't apologize to Ted, I won't acknowledge him, and he doesn't deserve anything. But yeah, moving on. It's time for our fun finish. Final 6 segments. Jeremy, the first 3 are yours.
All right. So I had a tribute for moment in history, but I got my dates mixed up. So today is actually the birthday of, to me, one of the most influential midfielders from when I was growing up. So I'm gonna read off some of his stats to our listeners to see if they can guess whose birthday it is today. Spoiler, this man turns 44 today as we're recording May 19th. Um, let's see. His senior career begins in Italy with Brescia. Then he plays 3 years for Inter Milan. Then going and jumping ship to AC Milan for 10 years. then Juventus for 2011 to 2015, and then ending his career in the MLS with New York City FC for 2015 to 2017. And he's also a 2006 World Cup winner with Italy. Happy birthday, Andrea Pirlo. To me, one of the greatest free kick takers of my generation. I know, like right now, to me, it's Ward Prowse. The current best free kick taker. You can argue Trent or whatever, but no, to me, it's Ward Prowse. But all time, it's Beckham. And then my number two has got to be Andrea Pirlo. Also, probably the most handsome man to ever play soccer, in my opinion. He's definitely up there with Beckham and Ronaldo. Andrea Pirlo, that long hair with the beard and the goatee, it's such an iconic look. And he's an Italian legend as well. So happy birthday to him. He turns 44. He looks great for 44. And he's managing right now. I believe he's coaching over in Turkey with oh yeah, this is a really tough name to pronounce. Fatih Kara Karagumruk. I don't know if I
It's all right.
doubt
Don't
I
hurt yourself. It's all right.
didn't say it, but all in all, happy birthday to Andrea Pirlo. Now over to my locks. So I believe I'm 9-1-2, if I'm not mistaken. So we're gonna have some.
Dude, last week was tough for me. I don't have
Yeah.
access to our document from last week for some reason. But I know I got two wrong because of Spurs over Villa, and I believe I had Leverkusen over Roma. So I might have got one other one correct, but I kind of fumbled a little bit last week. So hopefully nobody listened to me.
Hey, I mean, I'm trying to just continue my great form right now. I did well 2 weeks ago, but we have an English lock, we have a German lock, and we have an MLS lock. I will throw an MLS one in there. My English lock, I mentioned it before. It's Man City over Chelsea. This is the best team in the world. They're going to continue their great form. So I have a City dub over Chelsea. Next, I have Frankfurt over Schalke. Schalke, to me, are one of the worst performing teams in the major leagues. Obviously, falling to Bayern, 6-0. It's really not. It's hard to get out of that. So I have Eintracht Frankfurt over Schalke, Kolo Muani to score as my little prop bet. And then for my MLS lock of the week, I have LAFC over San Jose in an all California Western Conference battle. LAFC, to me, are one of the more complete teams in MLS. I think their great form is going to continue over their in-state rival. So give me LAFC over the Earthquakes. And finally, my 3 stars of the week. Number 3, I am Jose Mourinho. He does it again. He finds himself in another European final in an ugly way, I know, but the man is him, in my opinion. Number 2, Andre Onana. Man, put all the controversy aside, this man is one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He was unstoppable. And again, AC Milan's offense was a little lackluster, but he kept his team in the entire game, and he got his team on a trip to Istanbul in a few weeks' time against Manchester City. And number 1, a player that Andre Nana will be facing, Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva, to me, this was he's always been a really great player since the moment that he stepped on the foot or on the field at the Etihad with Man City. But this leg against Madrid, I get it. I was so close to throwing a Kanji in for one of my stars of the week. But to me, Bernardo Silva scoring a brace, putting his team basically through. I think after his second goal, it was like, okay, City are they're pretty much locked up, to go to the final. So again, my 3 stars, Jose Mourinho, Andre Onana, Bernardo Silva.
Heartbreaker that Courtois didn't make it because he was trying to work some miracles in that game. But
Yeah.
fair enough, fair enough. Okay, random player, Mario Balotelli. He's the random
Whoa.
player of the
We
week.
love
Gotta
we
love.
love Italy today. We love Italy today.
We do love Italy today. So Balotelli, he started his professional career in 2005. Later in 2007, he would join Inter Milan, where he won the treble, Serie A, Coppa Italia, and the Champions League in 2010. He then moved over to City with his manager Mancini in 2010, a little reuniting going on there, and helped them win the Prem title as well as the FA Cup. Moved back over to AC Milan a little later, then on to Liverpool. And he would end up going to France with Nice and Marseille. So he had a bit of a journeyman's career, but a really good player who some say might have not maybe achieved his potential, but he overall had a pretty solid career, won the treble. And in general, it was a pretty. He had a couple funny moments in his career as well. So figured he was a good little random player to throw in there. And now, Jeremy, are you ready?
I believe so. I'll be as ready as I'll ever be, Sammy.
All right, let's go. Your
Are we
questions
still,
are up. Let's hear
we're
it.
still at 10.
We're at 10 until
We both get it the
um
same, like consecutively, right?
well, yeah, I missed not last week,
The
not my
week
last time,
after.
but the following. So if I get three in a row, we'll go down to eight.
Okay.
So you've already hit kind of your threshold of getting three in a
I
row. So
know.
once
So
I get
but
three
there's
in a
so
row, we'll go
pressure. Like
down to eight.
I could
Yeah,
throw that all away.
yeah.
All right.
But here we go.
Is this team in Serie A?
They are not.
Is this team in the Prem?
They are. Big guess.
Okay.
You've set
Okay.
yourself up for success
Oh,
here.
I love my chances right now. Okay.
You want to throw like one aggressive guess and see if you can just get it right and like set a record here for doing it in three questions?
Would I lose or no? Like would I
Yeah. No, you get
it's
up
just
to
it's just a guess, right?
it counts as one of your questions.
All right, ready? Three, two, one, Brentford.
No.
Oh, okay. Um
Fair enough.
okay. Is this team in any spot for European football?
No.
Is this team in the relegation zone as of today?
Yes.
Does this team have yellow in their badge?
They do not.
Does this team have James Ward-Prowse as a midfielder?
They do.
Is it Southampton?
It is. I wanted to get Southampton in there because they're going down. It's official. So I figured it'd be last time we'd count them in a top five league or MLS kind of guesser. So I figured it wasn't a bad time to throw them in there. It wasn't necessarily the hardest one, especially since you got Prem really fast. But figured it was worth throwing Southampton in there before they get the drop. But now that leads us, honestly, it was kind of uneventful because you got that so easily. But now that sends us to the final section here, six, the debate question topic. A starting 11 of your favorite active players. You don't have to doesn't have to be the best, but I want your favorite 11 if you could craft it. So Jeremy, do you go first here?
Okay, so I'm gonna start. Should I start from the back up or from the front down?
However, whatever tickles your fancy, man. Whatever you want to do.
All right,
Float your boat.
I'm gonna go from the goalie up. Now,
Okay.
a lot of these players are very good, but I just love the way that all these players play. So in goal, we're starting with Mike Mignon from AC Milan. He's turning into my favorite goalie. For a long time, it was David De Gea, but let's be real, David De Gea has been kind of having a little bit of a stinker here and there. But Mignon has just been this goalie where every time I've seen him, he's just been pretty impressive. Apart from giving up the goal from Lautaro Martinez this past week, um, to me, he's a goalie that's going to get a real big paycheck somewhere else. Believe it or not. Now, I'm not discrediting Milan, but I love Mike. And a
Tough
lot of
year
the
for them too.
yeah, but a lot of the AC Milan fans that were at the bar over at Legends were just every time was like Vamo Mike, like everyone loves Mike Mignon. My back line, um, how can you not love Akraf Hakimi? He's one of the best. I think this World Cup really drew my appreciation for him. Taking a Morocco team that far to the semifinals of the World Cup was very impressive, and he was obviously to me the best player on that team. Love the way he plays as a right back too. Would love for him to wear a United shirt in the near future, but I don't think it's going to happen. Eder Militao. Eder Militao is also a player. This is more of a FIFA video game pick. He's one of those players that has had this potential, and every time I was playing in a manager career mode, I always made sure I would purchase Eder Militao because he had all this potential, and like in 4 or 5 years' time, he's like a 92 rated playing on your center back or playing on your back line. But again, tough look because had a bit of a stinker against Man City. But to me, the Brazilian will be on the national team for a few years now, and I expect him to have a really big Gold Cup coming up there. And then Rafa Varane. I was really happy that my favorite center back became a United player. Rafa has been world class. I think Rafa at Real Madrid is one of my favorite defenders of all time. Getting to see him wear the red kit now has been an absolute pleasure, and I love him. But he's got a running in for my favorite defender because my left back is also up there on my list, and that's more of a because I believe that this man will take Scotland to the Euros in 2024. Captain Andy Robertson of Liverpool. I love Andy. Andy is everything you want in a leader. When he wears the armband for Scotland, he plays with 110% every single game, and he will be the reason, along with Scott McTominay, that Scotland make it far in the Euro 2024. Don't at me.
Okay, Jeremy, before we go to the midfielder, what formation are we playing here?
Playing a 4-3-3. So we're playing a flat three mids, maybe a little bit of a triangle action. So I got two up, and then I got a CDM. So my CDM is Casemiro. Again, this transfer took me by surprise as well. Did not expect Casemiro to be wearing a United shirt as well. Cassie at Real Madrid, along with Varane, along with Benzema. Like, those teams are just known for winning. Seeing him in a Man U shirt is a pleasure every day, and he's my vote to win Player of the Year over Marcus Rashford. KDB. How can you not love KDB? He's the best center mid in the world. As a hockey player and as a soccer player, I love assisting more than I love scoring because I was never a great scorer, but I've taken inspiration on the art of passing the ball. And to me, the best passer of the ball is Kevin De Bruyne. And finally, Jude Bellingham. How can you not love Jude? This guy is going to get paid by Real Madrid sometime in the next few months or so. Should be a Premier League team, but he will be going to Madrid. That's pretty much set in stone. Now, my left winger, Marcus Rashford. I was a fan of Marcus Rashford since he wore number 39. I know, shocker, 3-man, you guys, what? But seeing him wear the number 39, coming up from the academy along with Jesse Lingard was such a cool moment. Scoring on his debut, too. He scored on his European debut and his Premier League debut. How can you not love Marcus? The man is going to get paid. For me, he is Manc born and bred. We say it in our chants. He's my left winger. My right winger, playing on his offside, I know, controversial, Vinny Jr. Vinny Jr., I was surprised that, now I see your team, but I'm going to let you say your team. I was surprised he didn't make your team because I know you love him. I know, but you love another guy more than him. But,
yeah, I didn't want to switch positions too.
Right. So
yeah.
how can you not? I mean,
I don't blame you.
I just love having Vinny. And then up at the striker, saw this guy take off when he played for RB Salzburg. But before that, he played for Moldy, whatever you want to call him. Then he played for Borussia Dortmund. Now he plays for Man City. Erling Braut Haaland. How can you not love him? To me, he's going to be one of, if not the greatest goal scorer of our generation. And managing my team, Ted Lasso.
Okay. I didn't even think about a manager. Who would I want?
Right. To me, okay. In an ideal world, now active manager? Because it's an active manager, because it's active players, right?
Yeah. Active manager.
Cop out would be Ten Hag, but I'm gonna go Jurgen Klopp over Pep, but I know.
Interesting. Okay. Honestly, I think I'm gonna go Ancelotti as my manager.
Okay. I like that.
So I saw your first cuts. I'm gonna throw mine at the start here. James Maddison and Sadio Mane were my first cuts. Sonny maybe third, but I love Sonny, but he's had a tough season. But those are my first three cuts. So back to front here. My goalkeeper, Nicky Pope.
Nicky Pope.
So he's had a really, really good year for Newcastle. I think he should be the starter for England. I think Ramsdale's overrated. But I also think he's better than Pickford. So in general, love Nick Pope. So we're back four is a little funny here. We're starting on the right. Emerson Royale. He's had a bit of an up and down road here in terms of my view on Emerson Royale. He was a little shaky before the World Cup break. But come back, he's played very well since that break. And he's also come in, he's played some center back in general. He's very funny now that I'm starting to warm up to him. So in general, just a fan. Bastoni and Romero, my center back pairing. Bastoni incredible for Inter. Those Romero and Bastoni together would just be like a red card machine though, because those two are just so like physical. I feel like you'd always be playing a man down with your back line if you let those two guys get loose, but mainly Romero. And then my left back is Theo Hernandez. I think he and my left wing make the best left-sided partnership you can imagine. So I had to put him as my left back. I'm playing the 4-2-4. So my midfield 2 is going to be Modric, who Luka Modric, he's just got to have some experience on the team. Gotta have a born winner, and he knows Ancelotti very well, so you put him in right there. And then Barella, he's one of my favorite younger midfielders, doing very well again with Inter Milan. So he slots in there. And my front 4 make up like my 4 favorite players in general, like 1 through 4. Leao on the left, Kane and Griezmann, the strike partnership, and Rodrigo on the right. This was so close to just trying to slot Madison on the right. Really was close to trying to make that happen because I love James Madison. But I think those 4 are like literally my 1 through 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4, Kane, Griezmann, Leao, Rodrigo, 1, 2, 3, 4. My favorite players. So yeah, that's the ideal team there. And if you want to mention your first cuts, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, just missing the cuts were Samo Bisagna, Jamie Tart, Danny Rojas, Colin Hughes, and Isaac McAdoo.
Fair enough.
Just missing out.
And you don't mind if I take the quote this week, do you?
Go right ahead, big man.
Okay. So this one came from the most recent episode, and this one I'm going to swear. Explicit advisory. It's just the word that begins with an S, but just a warning because it is part of the quote. You got to give it life here. Got to do Rebecca proud here. So here we go. Why would you ever consider taking something away from people that mean so much to them? This isn't a game. Football isn't just a game. It's one of those amazing things in life that make you feel like shit one moment and like it's Christmas morning the next. It has the ability to make heroes and villains out of ordinary men. Just because we own these teams doesn't mean they belong to us. I think there are a few owners and other people in leadership groups who could really listen to that lesson. Enick, Letty,
Glazers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, with all that being said, this was the 90+2 podcast. I'm Sammy St.Jean. That's Jeremy Gironos. And this is the crossroads between pundits and fans. We are aspiring soccer journalists who have a love for the game. And this is our starting point. That was episode 9. We will see you guys next week for number 10. We hit double digits. So in a week's time, we'll hear from you again. See you soon.